You can't love others until you learn to love yourself. Time heals all wounds. You need to just get over it. We have all heard these sayings about trauma and healing, but are they true or just myths? Hey there, and welcome to Beyond Survival, a Pathway to Peace. I'm your host, Naomi Stanchfield. If you're living with the effects of trauma or PTSD, you're in the right place. I know what it's like to live in survival mode, always waiting for the next shoe to drop. For years, I searched for peace, for a way to feel safe in my own body again. That search became the foundation of the work I do today as a trauma-informed coach. This podcast is here to support you as you begin your own journey towards a calmer, more peaceful life. Each week, we'll explore real tools, heartfelt conversations, and simple practices to help you heal, one step at a time. You don't have to walk this path alone. Let's take it together. As we explore these myths today, notice if anything feels heavy or activating. It's okay to pause, take a breath, and come back later. Your nervous system sets the pace of your healing. Today, we are going to dig deeper into 14 of the most common myths surrounding trauma and healing and bring the truth to light. As we will find out while going through these common myths, a lot of these stemmed from a long time before mental health, trauma, and healing were truly understood. And while science has evolved significantly in the fields of trauma and trauma recovery, the public thoughts about it have not changed as the public at large has not been educated about it properly. In the past, trauma and PTSD were not looked at as physiological disorders. They were often dismissed as moral failings, cowardice, or purely physical ailments. Terms like hysteria were used for women who displayed any signs of trauma or PTSD. Soldiers were shell-shocked after war, and this was often viewed as a physical injury or a lack of character rather than a psychological condition. This led to these soldiers being punished rather than receiving therapeutic treatments. Treatment for these quote unquote moral failings were typically things like electric shock therapy, lobotomies, psychoanalysis, or institutionalization. Survivors of trauma were typically thought of as weak willed until PTSD was formally recognized in 1980. This is when the scientific and medical worlds started to recognize the effects of trauma on human beings and understand PTSD. Treatments for these started to emerge. However, the general public was not properly educated about these. It wasn't until just recently that trauma and PTSD have been publicly talked about regularly without shame. Social media has played a big part in this. However, even with all of this progress, there are a lot of myths surrounding trauma and healing. So let's talk about some of them. Myth number 1: only life threatening events are traumatic. The truth? In episode 1, we talked all about the different types of trauma. As we discussed in that episode, trauma can stem from various experiences like emotional abuse, neglect, or even witnessing others' trauma, or what you would call vicarious trauma, as well as life threatening events. Trauma is very personal and varies from person to person. In the end, trauma is anything that left your mind saying, "What the fuck just happened?" Myth number 2: time heals all wounds. The truth? Time alone isn't enough. Trauma often needs active processing and therapy to resolve the emotional impacts. On top of the emotional impacts, as we have discussed throughout most of our podcast episodes, trauma is also stored in the body. In order to truly heal from trauma, you must heal not only your mental and emotional health, but also the physiological side of things as well. This is why I pair both CBT and somatic therapy in my practice. We must heal our mind and our body to truly heal from trauma. Myth number 3: trauma is a sign of weakness. The truth? Surviving trauma takes immense strength. The symptoms of trauma are signs of an overwhelmed nervous system, not personal failings. When we experience trauma, our nervous system tries desperately to protect us. And especially if we experience multiple traumas, our nervous system stays in a constant state of survival and protection, and it is extremely hard to pull ourselves out of survival mode and into a state of healing. Myth number 4: everyone reacts to trauma the same way. The truth: reactions, symptoms, and healing paths are unique to each individual. The type of trauma you experienced, how long it happened for, how many traumatic events you have experienced, and your previous mental health history all play a factor in how you react to trauma. The symptoms you have take all of that into consideration, as well as how your body reacted to the trauma. For instance, if you're the kind of person that fights in a traumatic situation, you may experience anger, lash out, and have more aggressive symptoms. While someone who experiences the fawn response typically will see people pleasing, over apologizing, and anxiety as symptoms of their trauma. And healing is different for everyone. What truly matters in your healing journey is finding what makes you feel safe now and giving your mind and your body repeated experiences of that safe feeling. Myth number 5: you have to relive the trauma to heal. The truth: while there are therapies that focus on reliving the trauma through talking about it, effective therapies help process trauma without constant, overwhelming reliving. They focus on regulating responses. Therapies like CBT and somatic therapy focus on feeling safe now, reframing your current thoughts, and experiencing your emotions in safe ways. There is some good that can come from reliving your trauma through talk therapy, though. Understanding what happened and why your body and your mind do what they do now is a good first step to healing. But talking about your trauma alone is not how we fully heal. Myth number 6: trauma only happens to soldiers, or PTSD is only for veterans. The truth: anyone can experience trauma and PTSD, including children, first responders, and survivors of abuse or accidents. As we discussed in episode 1 of our podcast, trauma is any event that leaves your nervous system on high alert. And PTSD can happen to anyone that has experienced trauma, especially after repeated or long-term exposure to trauma. In the past, PTSD was originally associated only with soldiers because after World War I and the Vietnam War, there was a spike in soldiers experiencing PTSD. So that is where the focus of the study on trauma and PTSD really started. But science and medicine both agree now that anyone can experience trauma and PTSD. Myth number 7: you can heal from your trauma on your own. The truth: I actually think that this one is only partially a myth. I think that you can heal from your trauma all on your own, but that takes a lot of hard work and a lot of trial and error. Doing it yourself is almost like reinventing the wheel. While resilience is key, trauma often requires professional support to address deep nervous system changes. The research and trial and error can take months or years to find what actually works when doing it on your own. Working with a professional that is trained in trauma and healing helps you to get to the actual healing part much faster. Myth number 8: trauma always has negative outcomes. The truth: while often negative, trauma can also lead to post traumatic growth, fostering resilience, deep appreciation, and new strengths. Post traumatic growth doesn't downplay the distress and hurt that trauma causes. What it does do is propose that positive change can also come from trauma. Learning more about yourself, building a better relationship with yourself, and enhancing your current strengths and even bringing to light new strengths you didn't know you had. Myth number 9: trauma is all in your head. The truth? Trauma is a complex, whole body experience affecting the brain, nervous system, and physical sensations. As we have discussed previously, trauma gets stored in the mind and body, so it takes a whole body approach to healing. If we just focus on the mind part, we can never truly heal. If someone ever tells you that it is all in your head, just know that they do not understand trauma. Do not take that kind of statement personally or feel like a failure because you have suffered trauma and it has affected you. All in your head is a very close minded type of thinking. Myth number 10: talking about it always makes it worse. The truth? For me, this is another myth that I think is only partially a myth. With a trained therapist can be crucial for healing. While overwhelming talk is not helpful, processing trauma with a trained therapist can be crucial for healing if it is used with nonverbal methods along with the talk therapy. The true problem with talking about trauma is that your mind and your body cannot differentiate between the trauma that happened 10 years ago and you talking in detail about that trauma now. Your body will react in the same way while talking about the trauma as it did during the traumatic event itself. So, constantly talking in depth about the trauma can continue to re traumatize yourself. Like I said in myth number 5, there can be some good from talking about trauma. Understanding what happened and how it affects you now, understanding your trauma responses, and knowing how to move forward are all good things that can come from talking about your trauma. But understand that there is a fine line between talking for understanding and talking too much about it and re traumatizing yourself. Myth number 11: it can't be traumatic if someone doesn't remember what happened. The truth? Even if you don't remember the traumatic event itself, your body sure does. This is why sometimes people find themselves reacting to perceived danger in ways that don't necessarily make sense to them. It's because your body reacts to danger before you can think it through, or even in spite of your mind not understanding it. This is why the body work portion of healing is so important. And this is especially true when you don't remember the trauma. If you find yourself reacting in ways that don't make sense, or feeling unsafe in situations that your mind knows is safe, it is more important than ever to focus on somatic therapy and healing your body and teaching your mind that you are safe now. Myth number 12: if you can function day to day, it must not be trauma. The truth? Many survivors delay seeking support because they believe what they have been through doesn't count as trauma or that their pain isn't valid enough to deserve help. This kind of comparison and self minimizing is incredibly common, especially among high achievers who've learned to push through discomfort and keep going no matter the cost. The truth is, trauma isn't always visible, and its effects don't always show up the way that we expect. For some, it may look like overworking, chronic anxiety, irritability, emotional disconnection, or feeling numb. These patterns can easily be mistaken for personality traits or even strengths, but they often reflect the body's attempt to cope and to stay safe. Overworking, for instance, can serve as a powerful distraction from pain, offering short term relief while quietly feeding long term exhaustion, burnout, and worsening of your symptoms. Without proper support, the weight of unprocessed trauma can contribute to depression, chronic pain, and ongoing stress that impacts both mind and body. Simply beginning to acknowledge the impact of your experiences can be a powerful first step. Healing begins not by denying what we've been through, but by honoring it and allowing ourselves to receive the care, compassion, and tools we need to recover and find peace. Myth number 13: Healing means never feeling pain again. The truth? True healing involves building the capacity to handle emotions without being overwhelmed, not creating a numb or perfect life. We talked a lot about this in episode 7. Healing is a journey. We may always feel the effects of trauma on us, but healing means learning to live with them and lessen them over time. And myth number 14. You have to love yourself before you can love someone else or before someone else can love you. The truth? This is one of the most common myths of love that I wish that we could completely get rid of because it's not true and it has created so many self-imposed barriers around love. There are many people who absolutely hate themselves and give love so freely and fully. And many of those same people have doting spouses or partners that love them fully and without reservation. Where the truth in this myth comes in is that we cannot fully accept the love of other people until we learn to love ourselves. Until we love ourselves, we will always live with that lingering question in the back of our heads. When are they going to wake up and realize that I don't deserve their love? Or one day they will realize I am not good enough for them. Learning to love ourselves allows us to know and accept why other people would love us and opens us up to fully accepting the love that people give us. I think the main lesson we can take from all of these myths surrounding trauma and healing are that the road to healing will look a little different for everyone, but involves healing our mind and our bodies. This is why the focus of Beyond Survival, A Pathway to Peace is both CBT and somatic therapies. The combination of both of these helps to retrain your brain and your body to feel safe, to reconnect with yourself, and to start living a happy and fulfilling life. Thank you so much for joining me today on Beyond Survival, A Pathway to Peace. I'm so grateful to walk alongside you on this journey. Remember, healing isn't about perfection. It's about returning to yourself one small step at a time. Every time you show up for yourself like this, you're building something beautiful, a life beyond trauma. Healing is a journey, and every step, no matter how small, is meaningful. Be gentle with yourself along the way, and remember, you don't have to do it alone. If you're finding things especially hard right now, please don't hesitate to reach out for professional support. You don't have to do this alone. Help is out there and healing is possible. If this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone on their own path. Also, if you found value in today's episode, I invite you to connect with me on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at Beyond Survival Pathway. There you'll find more insights, encouragement, and community support. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you'll be with us for the next part of the journey. And consider joining our Facebook book club, Beyond Survival, Healing Through Stories. It's a welcoming place to explore transformation through shared stories and connect with others on the path to healing. Until next time, keep putting one foot in front of the other. You're not walking alone, and the path to peace is unfolding with every step. Let's keep walking this journey together. Take care, and I'll meet you back here soon.